There's a specific kind of Monday morning that changes everything. You're 39, maybe 38. You're sitting in traffic on the way to a job you've had for years, doing the math in your head, the same math you've been doing for months, trying to figure out how a decade passed and somehow your bank account looks almost exactly the same as it did when you were 29. The income went up, the lifestyle went up, but the number that actually matters, the one that represents real security, real freedom, real options, barely moved. And somewhere between the traffic light turning green and you realizing you missed it because you were lost in thought, it hits you. Not like a sudden shock, like a slow, quiet, sinking feeling. Your 30s are almost gone, and you're not sure you used them the way you were supposed to. That feeling is more common than almost anyone admits out loud, and it exists because nobody sits you down in your early 30s and tells you the truth about what this decade actually is. Nobody explains that the financial decisions you make between 30 and 40, the raises you invest or absorb into lifestyle, the debt you eliminate or carry forward, the investments you start or keep putting off, will shape every financial outcome you experience for the rest of your life. Your 30s aren't a warm-up, they are the main event, and most people only figure that out when the decade is almost over. My name is Ken, and on this channel we talk about the money truths that most people learn too late. Today I want to show you exactly what your 30s are deciding about your financial future right now, whether you realize it or not. And I'm going to introduce you to two people whose stories will make the stakes of this decade impossible to ignore. By the halfway point of this video, I'm going to show you a number that will completely reframe how you think about every financial decision you make this year. Stay with me, because this one matters. If you want more content that actually changes how you think about money, subscribe and hit that like button before we go any further. Here is what nobody tells you about your 30s that changes everything once you understand it. This decade is special in a way that no other decade of your financial life can replicate. Your income is finally real. For most people, the 30s are when a career starts generating meaningful money for the first time. The entry-level years are behind you. The promotions start happening. The raises start feeling significant. For the first time in your adult life, the gap between what you earn and what you need to survive has enough room in it to actually build something. But here is where the trap gets set. The exact moment your income becomes meaningful is also the exact moment that everything around you starts telling you to spend it. You've been living lean for a decade. You've earned an upgrade. The apartment that was fine at 26 suddenly feels small at 32. The car that served you well through your 20s starts feeling like something you should have grown out of by now. Your friends are buying houses. Your colleagues are taking the kinds of vacations you used to just see on Instagram. The invisible social pressure to match your lifestyle to your new income level is constant, persistent, and almost completely invisible, because it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like reward. And so most people in their 30s do the thing that feels completely natural and completely earned. They let their lifestyle grow with their income. And in doing so, they quietly close the window that was supposed to change their entire financial future. Let me show you exactly what I mean with two people you're going to recognize immediately, because one of them is probably the person you know, and the other is probably the person you wish you'd been. Meet Sam and Ethan. Both turned 30 in the same year. Both land jobs paying similar salaries. Both are starting from the same place. No significant savings, some debt from their 20s, and a genuine intention to get serious about money now that things are finally stable. Sam makes one decision in his early 30s that changes everything. He decides that the lifestyle he built in his late 20s is good enough for now. He doesn't upgrade the apartment even though he could afford better. He doesn't lease a new car even though his colleagues are driving nicer ones. He lives exactly the way he lived at 28, comfortably but without inflation. And he takes the gap between what he earns and what he spends and puts $400 a month into a simple broad market index fund, every month, without fail. He automates it so it happens before he even sees the money, and then he mostly stops thinking about it. Ethan has similar intentions. He tells himself he'll get serious about investing once the student loans are a little more manageable, once he's settled into the apartment he just upgraded to, once work calms down, once the car is paid off. He has every intention of starting. He just needs a little more time to get things in order first. And before Ethan fully realizes what's happening, his early 30s have become his mid-30s, have become his late 30s, and he still hasn't started. At 40, finally feeling ready, Ethan begins investing the same $400 a month that Sam started investing at 30. Now let's fast forward to retirement at 65. Same investment, same amount, same return of 8% annual growth, the long-term historical average of a broad stock market index fund. Sam, who started at 30, retires with $917,553. Ethan, who started at 40, retires with $380,411. Same income, same $400 a month, same investment approach. The only difference is 10 years. And that 10-year difference created a gap of $537,142, over $500,000, between two people who were in almost identical positions at age 30. That number is not the result of a bad investment, or a missed opportunity, or a market crash. That $537,142 gap was created entirely by one thing. Ethan waited. He didn't do anything dramatically wrong. He didn't blow his money on something reckless. He just kept telling himself he'd get to it, and the clock kept running without him. This is the thing about compounding that most people understand intellectually, but never really feel until they see it in a number like this. Compounding doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't reward your plans to start soon. It only rewards the dollars that are actually invested and the time those dollars have to grow. Every year you delay is not just a year of missed growth on this year's contributions. It is a year of missed growth on every future contribution as well, because every future dollar also has one less year to compound. The cost of waiting is not linear. It is exponential. And in your 30s, with 35 years of runway ahead of you, the cost of each year of delay is enormous. Here's what makes this even more difficult to see clearly when you're living inside it. Ethan's life looked better than Sam's for most of that decade. His apartment was nicer. His car was newer. His vacations were more expensive. His wardrobe reflected his income. From every visible angle, Ethan looked like the more successful person. The financial reality underneath was the exact opposite. But nobody at dinner parties talks about their investment account balance. They talk about where they went on vacation. And so the gap between Sam and Ethan stayed invisible for years, right up until both of them were sitting across from a financial advisor at 65, looking at what they'd actually built. Now I want to talk about something that makes this whole situation even more consequential. And it's something that most financial conversations completely overlook when they talk about building wealth in your 30s. It's not just about what you invest. It's about what you don't inflate. Here's the hidden wealth destroyer that quietly consumes most of what a decade of raises could have built. Every time your income goes up in your 30s, you face a choice. You probably don't experience it consciously as a choice. It just happens. The new apartment, the nicer car, the upgraded everything. But what actually happened is that you converted a raise into a permanent monthly expense. And permanent monthly expenses are the enemy of wealth building in a way that even bad investments aren't. Because at least a bad investment gives you a chance. A lifestyle upgrade commits that money forever. Think about what it actually means when someone in their 30s gets a raise that frees up an extra $800 a month and then absorbs that entire raise into a nicer apartment. Not just that month, every month for the next several years at minimum. That $800 a month invested from age 32 to 62 at 8% annual returns would have grown to over $1.1 million. Instead, it became rent payments that are gone the moment they're made and build nothing on the other end. This is the lifestyle inflation trap that swallows the 30s for most people. Not one big decision that obviously goes wrong. 100 small decisions that each feel earned and reasonable in the moment, and collectively redirect an enormous amount of wealth-building potential into consumption that leaves no trace. The people who look back at their 30s with genuine financial confidence almost all share one specific habit. When their income went up, they waited. They made a conscious decision to let their lifestyle stay where it was for at least 6 to 12 months before considering any upgrade. And in that window, the raise went somewhere permanent and productive instead of somewhere comfortable and temporary. Not forever, just long enough for the financial compounding to get a head start. There is also a category of opportunity that most people in their 30s walk past without realizing what they're leaving behind. If your employer offers a retirement account match and you are not contributing enough to capture the full match, you are turning down part of your salary. Your employer is offering to give you free money as part of your compensation package. On a $65,000 salary, with a 50% match up to 6%. That match is worth $1,950 a year. Invested over a decade at 8%, that unclaimed match grows to over $28,000. Most people in their 30s who aren't capturing their full employer match have never thought of it that way. As salary, they're declining to accept. But that is exactly what it is. I want to address something directly here, because this is the part where some of you are going to feel the weight of this conversation settling in a way that might feel uncomfortable. Maybe you're 34 or 36 or 38, and you're listening to this and doing the math and realizing that you are closer to Ethan's story than to Sam's. That the decade is further along than you thought, and the investing hasn't started in the way you planned. I want to tell you something important. Starting late is not the same as not starting. The window is not closed. Ethan ended up with $380,000, not nothing. And if Ethan increased his monthly contribution to $600 or $700 a month starting at 40, that number grows significantly. The compound math still works in your favor, even from 35 or 37 or 39. The gap between starting now and waiting another year is still significant. Every year of delay on $400 a month costs you nearly $75,000 in future wealth at 8% returns. But the most important investment decision you will ever make is the one you make today, not the one you made 5 years ago that you can't change. What separates the people who transform their financial picture in their 30s from the people who don't is almost never income. It is almost never circumstance. It is one thing. The moment they stopped treating financial action as something to do later and started treating it as the most urgent priority of right now. Your 30s are a window. They are the most powerful wealth-building window of your entire life. Not because of any magic specific to this decade, but because of math. Because of how many years of compounding still lie ahead of you. Because of how much runway is left between now and the moment you will need this money to live on. That window is open. It will not stay open forever. And what you put into it during this decade, the investments you make, the debt you eliminate, the raises you invest instead of inflate into lifestyle, will determine what your financial life looks like for the 4 decades that follow. 10 years from now, you'll either be Sam looking at a balance that proves the decade was worth it, or you'll be Ethan sitting in traffic doing the same quiet math, wondering how another decade passed without the number moving the way it was supposed to. The math has already decided which one it's going to be. The only question is whether you're going to change the inputs before it's too late to matter. If this video hit differently than you expected, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Ken Invests. We put out videos every week that cut through the noise and show you what actually matters with money. You being here tells me you're serious about making this decade count. Stick around, because what we cover next is going to be just as important as what you heard today. Everything in this video is for educational and informational purposes only, and is not financial advice.